Liam, where are we at? This ban of Russian oil to us and the US, what's it going to mean?
It's getting really serious now, isn't it, Eamon? Back when we were lads in the early 70s, there was the Arab oil embargo after the Yom Kippur War. It led to what the world called the first oil price shock. It completely upended Western politics. It led to the end of the huge American cars, the gas guzzlers, or at least the emergence of much smaller fuel-efficient cars. We're in a similar place now. I must admit, I never thought that this economic war between Russia and the West, because that's what it is, if not a military conflict between Russia and the West. I never thought it would get this serious. We're now sanctioning energy. And just as America is saying it's banning Russian oil, the UK is saying it's going to phase out Russian oil by the end of the year, not gas. The EU is simply too dependent. Western Europe is too dependent on Russian gas. But just as the West is saying it won't take Russian oil and gas to some degree, Russia's saying, well, we're not going to export any commodities to you anyway. Last night, they issued a decree saying that it would put blocks on commodities leaving Russia. We don't quite yet know which ones they are. They may include gas through that Nord Stream pipeline that's so controversial from Russia to Germany. The Nord Stream pipeline is still pumping gas. Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 is lying next to it under the Baltic Sea, is the one that the Germans blocked. But a whole host of other commodities come from Russia, which if they didn't exist on global markets, we would seriously notice. Look at what happened to the price of nickel yesterday. It went up fivefold. Nickel used in stainless steel, electric vehicles, turbines, titanium, aluminium. Look, a lot of politicians say that Russia's a tiny economy, we shouldn't be scared. But the reality is, Eamon and Isabel, it gives me no pleasure to say this. The reality is that when it comes to commodities, not just oil and gas, but all kinds of industrial metals, when it comes to food, Russia is a superpower.
Okay, that's interesting. I've just literally seen on Reuters in the last few moments that palm oil prices are being predicted to go to record highs as a result of all of this. Obviously, it's been controversial in the past, but will there be moves now, swift moves to try and find alternatives, particularly as you described for those countries like Germany, who are going to now try and reduce their dependence on Russia by 2/3 by the end of the year, as soon as they can?
What are you talking about? Palm oil, did you say?
Well, yeah, palm oil prices. I mean,
does that not come from palm trees?
Yeah, it's controversial.
So where are the palm trees in Russia?
No, they're not in Russia. I'm saying others that we're finding alternatives because we're having to get oils. I mean,
so what would you use palm oil for?
Well, lots of things. I mean, I'm sure Liam could tell us. I mean, all I know is
you
it's
can't put palm oil in your car, can you?
No. Okay. Well, maybe I'm conflating the issues. Liam, help me.
Okay, you're both right. Let's say that, because the world of commodities, both commodities for energy and for foodstuffs, they're interlinked. Commodity prices tend to move together. You know, you talk about palm oil, sunflower oil too. Lots of that comes from Ukraine. About 80% of the world's supply of sunflower oil. That's used in all kinds of processed foods, from margarine to many products that you buy in your supermarket. Look, there is a big scramble for alternatives now. On the oil front, America's suddenly making nice with the Venezuelans. Nicolas Maduro there, who controversially threw out American diplomats just a couple of years ago. America's suddenly making nice with the Iranians to try and unlock embargoed Iranian oil to try and replace this 8 million barrels or so of Russian oil that hits global markets every day. I think here in the UK, it's now pretty much nailed on. That moratorium on fracking will be lifted in the next couple of days, so we can try and unlock those shale gas reserves in various parts of the UK, just as we responded in the 70s to that Arab oil embargo by developing the North Sea. So there will be a big scramble for alternatives. But in many cases, when these markets are global, politicians tell us that we may have to pay a little bit more to support sanctions against Russia. In my view, and I say this with regret, we'll be paying a lot more for lots of things. And politicians also say, oh, don't worry, only 5% of our gas comes from Russia. Well, we all buy gas on global markets. So the global market price goes up and we have to pay that global market price. However much of our physical gas actually comes from the country that's embargoing the oil. We're so much more interconnected now than we were during the Soviet days. Russia is integrated in the world economy as a commodity and energy complex. We're now seeing that, in my view, Eamon, with all respect, I think the political and media class really gets just how important Russia is to driving the engines and turbines and wheels of global commerce. But we're about to find out.